to the latest edition of the Jungle Juice podcast. I'm Sam Gormley. He's Mick Nelson. Mick, we are now 88 days away from the Cincinnati Bengals kicking off the 2024 season. Today, our Bengal of the day was Mike Martin, wide receiver from the 90s. So it's Mike Martin days away from Bengals taking on the Patriots. Not that I'm counting.
No, not at all.
Yeah, and I'm really excited. If you want to play along too, as Mick and I were just talking about that, we're going to be doing that every single day until the season kicks off. We're going to have some Bengals. Listen, some days it might be easy for you to know who it might be. Some days, maybe we'll get a little bit challenging as far as, like we were just talking, Mick, like our favorite number 44. Like, it's good. Like, you got to drop it in there, but that'll be something you get to look forward to. But for that, you're going to have to wait until July the 26th for that to happen. But enough. We're getting off topic already on the show. We've got an interesting show planned for today. It's an idea Mick had, and I think it'll be good to kind of kick off the summer a little bit more as we get ready. First off, we're going to update you on some of the headlines for the week. Not a lot, but still a little bit from minicamp. And then Mick and I both have come up with some reasons. One half of it is going to be reasons that we should be optimistic about the Cincinnati Bengals this year. The other half is going to be reasons that fans should be pessimistic about the Cincinnati Bengals this year, because I think both the discussions are important to have. But before we get into that, we want to invite you to join us and follow us on our social media channels. We're on Twitter. We are on YouTube. We are on Facebook. We're also on your favorite podcasting platform, Spotify, YouTube, or I guess YouTube is not a pod. Well, I guess there is YouTube podcasts. We're not on there, though. We're on all of them, though. And we can give a shout out to our listener this week from Belgium. Thanks for listening.
I love your waffles.
I was waiting for it. Taste of Belgium is maybe one of my favorite Cincinnati restaurants, too. If you're looking for a place to go before a Bengals game, or maybe the night before, and you're kind of staying downtown, you're coming in and out, it's a good spot. It's pretty solid.
Just skip the tailgating and go to Taste of Belgium for brunch.
Listen, I would not be mad. I would imagine that probably
we might do that one week. You want to do that one week?
Maybe we do both.
Yeah, sure. We'd have to go pretty early for breakfast, but
yeah, I would imagine that it probably is fairly busy on
mimosa waffle action, before you go down the tailgate.
See, can I give? I mean, listen, we've got plenty to talk about today, but can I give my hot take that I don't like mimosas?
That's not like it crazy.
It's not, but I like orange juice.
You like?
I don't like champagne. I do. Okay, I don't like champagne. Yeah, because I know champagne is always kind of one of those that I feel like parents, even if they don't let their kids drink, they'll give, on New Year's or a big date, they'll give you the little swig of champagne. And usually when you're a kid, it's like, oh my goodness, I'm getting alcohol. This is the greatest thing in the world. But for me, always when it was champagne, I was like, ugh.
That's how I feel about regular wine. I'm not a big wine drinker, but I'll drink champagne. Champagne's
well, I know I was kind of surprised. We went to a Reds game over the weekend, and I couldn't tell you the last time I saw you drink an actual beer, which you did inside the stadium.
Oh, the Mickey Ultras are becoming a staple of the drinking diet for me. The Mickey Ultras.
Or is it because they're named after you?
No, I mean, no. But they don't taste too watery like Coors, but there's something with Bud Light and Miller Lite. There's some type of taste with them that I'm just this is just not very enjoyable. But Mick Ultra, it's it's enjoyable, but it's not like water. It's nicely, what's the word I'm looking for? Is beer carbonated? Is beer carbonated? What's the bubbles? In beer. You know what I mean?
Isn't that the yeast?
It's got some good yeast to it then. I don't know.
We're talking about things we have absolutely no idea about. Luckily, this is not the Cincinnati Beer Podcast.
No.
Great idea, though. Somebody wants to take that. The Cincy Beer Podcast, you've got to find out a better name than Cincinnati Beer Podcast, because that is not at all creative even in the least.
I think it's got a good ring to it. Also, I'm pretty sure there's got to be like a Cincinnati beer podcast out there.
Oh, or something in that realm. And who knows, maybe even the person that is the host of that is watching us today. If you are, drop it in there.
Speaking of Cincy beer, do you see that the Kelsey brothers are partnering with Braxton?
Really?
Well, so it's a spinoff of Braxton. It's their garage beer.
Oh, yeah, that's good.
So Garage is, I think, becoming its own entity or thing or whatever. And I think I don't know if the Kelseys did a sponsorship deal or if they actually took an ownership stake in the Garage, but they are associated with Garage Beer now. So
interesting. No, I didn't see that at all. A couple of things news headline wise for us to get to as well this week is on I guess it was Monday or Tuesday, yesterday morning, I think is when it came out that Joe Burrow will not be on the Madden cover. For one,
they had us fooled.
They did. I think, the voice sounded like Burrow. There's no question. But it was red tinted, which kind of led some people to think Christian McCaffrey. And you know what? I love how mad this makes people on either side of it, of the fact that Burrow potentially would be, or now that the fact that he's not. Just like, if he would have been on there, that would have been cool. But here's the thing. If Joe Burrow comes out and has a great year this year, he very well could be on it next year in 2026. Like, he is going to, if he continues to trend the way he is and hopefully stay healthy, Joe Burrow is going to be on a Madden cover. And just get ready for the takes about the Madden curse. Just get ready for it, even though that some players it is true for some players, but other players, Patrick Mahomes won a Super Bowl after it. Calvin Johnson broke the record for the most yards in a season. So there are examples of it not being a thing either. But get ready for it. It's going to happen. Hopefully, I mean, here's the thing. You want it to happen because that means Joe Burrow is one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL.
Well, I mean, at least one of the most popular. I'm going to kind of backtrack over what I said. And, I thought it was kind of a big deal about like the Madden cover and stuff. I'm not saying it's not that big of a deal because, I don't know. It'd be pretty cool to have a Madden cover quarterback. But like ever since you got, the new consoles have come out, or really even the Xbox Ones where you've been able to buy digital versions of these games, like the cover has kind of had less and less significance, like at least to me, because I'm not like going out and buying hard copies of these games ever. Now, if Burrow was on the cover, definitely would have bought a hard copy of Madden. But like, big whoop that he's not on the cover of Madden. I don't know. It's not a big deal. CMC's on the cover.
And listen, I know Bengals fans, we're too young to really have much hatred towards the 49ers. But I love Christian McCaffrey. He might be my favorite player not on the Bengals, just because. Or I know the question always goes, if you could add one person to the Bengals that's not on the team, if it's an offensive player, he might be my guy.
Oh God,
he might be my guy. I mean, the other obvious answer just is Justin Jefferson, just because like let's roll, like Jefferson and Chase. Good luck.
The only other player I would just love to see play for the Bengals is Tyreek Hill because of how just explosive he is as a playmaker.
But I think if I asked you a top three, Christian McCaffrey is probably in your top three, or at least he is in the discussion for you to have, just because he is such a fun player to have.
Yeah.
And then defense, Myles Garrett. I just have to take one of those edge rushers that just is.
Just give me everybody, anybody that plays on an AFC North defense. It's not us.
Pretty much. And then Trey Hendrickson and Myles Garrett. Let's go. But Joe Burrow talked yesterday for the first time in a couple of weeks. Not a lot. He says, he's been through this before. He knows what it'll take to be in tip-top shape by the time the season starts. He didn't give a percentage as far as, and I always like this is, it's always the question, what percent do you think you're at? I don't know. So he didn't give one, but he says he'll be ready by the start to the season. But that's also kind of the thing is okay, what if he would have said 70%? Like, What does that mean? Like, would he play on 70%? Because that would have been probably the question I would have asked is, if the Patriots game was tomorrow, would you expect to play?
Mm-hmm.
And there was no really answer to that. On the offensive side, though, he did kind of give, I don't know that this is a nugget or anything. He says that he's expecting the offense to dictate more to defenses and use a lot more eye candy this year, which I liked. You know, when
That
you were talking about eye
is
candy,
that code for pre-snap motion?
I would imagine so,
Oh,
which I like. Because, I mean, we just talked about
oh.
Christian McCaffrey. Is there an offense in the NFL that does more pre-snap motion than the 49ers?
I'll tell you what, there's no offense in the NFL when Burrow's the quarterback that has done the least amount of pre-snap motion than the Cincinnati Bengals.
And still been successful.
Yeah, so Burrow likes this Peyton Manning type of play where he just wants to see the field spread out, doesn't want the motion to really help him and just win that way. And it's like trying to, win a fight with an arm tied behind your back. Like Burrow's pretty damn good at, has been pretty damn good at it the past few years, but like can't be turning down something that just helps, immensely and gives the team an advantage. So yeah, the eye candy. I like those two words right there. I'm hoping we do see a lot of pre-snap motion in 2024.
I knew when he said that, I was like, oh, got to write that down because I know that will make one Mick very happy. And then the other did you see the other big news from this press conference yesterday?
No.
He's learning to play the piano by watching YouTube videos.
Interesting. Okay. It's a good hobby.
Can you play the piano?
No, but the piano is by far the most important instrument ever.
Wow. That's
you don't think it is?
The voice?
That doesn't count.
The drums?
piano,
the violin, guitar?
More important.
I don't know. That's an interesting take there. Piano's the most important instrument. I don't know. Jamar Chase returned to mandatory minicamp. T. Higgins does not. In other news, water's wet. Like this, kept being a big thing. T. Higgins is not going to show up until probably the middle of August. He showed up. It's going to be the same thing as Jesse Bates, probably right after the second preseason game in that realm. He might even wait until the Monday before the opener. I just get used to it. Get ready. That's what's going to happen.
Yeah. Is the Houday Nation group been going off because T's not a mandatory minicamp?
Not even just that. It's more of just if you don't want to be here, then trade him. They're not going to trade him. T. Higgins will be I even saw Mo Ager. He tweeted out today, I think it was Mo, that one of the betting services had odds whichever team Cincinnati T. Higgins is going to be on next year, and the Bengals were like plus 400. That is free money. And I think the Patriots were next best odds at plus 600. I mean, T. Higgins on the Bengals next year is plus 400. Sign me up. I mean, I'm not the guy that likes to, drop in the free money, hammer it, and so on. But it's hard to not say that with that kind of.
Should I bet my entire life savings on this plus 400 bet?
I mean, what's that? $3?
Yeah. So I win $12.
Well, then you have quadrupled your life savings in the period of 3 or 4 months, right? I'm sure your wife would be completely okay with that.
God, I think she'd be pissed. I think she'd be sick.
Speaking of your wife, though, Mick, I know she is heartbroken right now.
Oh yeah, we got to talk about the news. The biggest news, apparently TT and Cody Ford broke up. For those of you that don't know or don't watch TikTok, TT is a TikToker. She does the TikTok. I think she's got some followers. My wife has followed her. Know a lot of other people that liked having them and their banter come across their phones on their TikToks. It's not happening anymore. And Sam says this should be a reason for pessimism or a reason for concern for the Bengals in 2024 is that their backup starting tackle or their sixth offensive lineman, Cody Ford, is not with TT anymore. And that is concerning.
Apparently in her video today that she released, she said, "We're never going to get back together." Okay, Taylor. She says, "I love him. I always will, but some things are unrecoverable." I don't know. That's sad. So there we go. Is your wife happy that we've talked about it?
I'll ask her in a little bit.
Okay.
She's been all upset today.
Well, tell her that if she really wants to have a therapy session, we had the therapy session after the Joe Burrow injury. We can invite her on and have a therapy session based on the breakup. There we go.
Your wife is happy. Thank you.
There you go.
She's watching.
Or maybe she just hears you talking about it from the other room.
I'm also a loud person, so I mean that makes
that very well. Okay, let's get into our big story from the week as well. Or I guess it's what our plan is for today. And we have both come up, Mick, with reasons for the Bengals fans to be pessimistic entering 2024 and reasons for them to be optimistic entering 2024. And I don't know how we want to do this, Mick. I feel like we go our pessimism first to just get it out of the way and then wrap it up and end on a high note with the reasons we should be optimistic. How's that sound to you?
Yeah, that sounds good to me.
Okay. Did you come up with 5 each, or are we just going to do this?
Yeah, I didn't really have any notes for the pessimism, but we'll just kind of wing it.
So we're just going to go one at a time, and we'll talk a little bit more about each of us. And if you have a reason for pessimism for the Bengals this year, drop it in the comments section as well. For me, my number one reason for pessimism for the Cincinnati Bengals this year is that, no quarterback has ever had the same injury that Joe Burrow has had. That's
exactly what my
really
first thing.
Yeah, and mine aren't necessarily mine aren't necessarily in a top 5. It's more of just 5. Like I didn't necessarily, but that was the first thing I wrote down.
That is the first thing I wrote down as well. That's
great minds. Great minds
think alike. Is Joe Burrow damaged goods now because of this wrist injury?
And it doesn't look like it so far. But there is, if you're wanting to be a pessimist, which is what we're wanting to do in this aspect of the show, that is something that we at least need to discuss. And that's a fact that no quarterback has really ever had this injury and come back from it. There have been some offensive linemen, there have been some linebackers that have had it, but that's completely different than your throwing wrist to have this injury. So I think that is a legitimate reason for potential of pessimism for the Bengals.
Yeah. Not much more to kind of go off here. It's a rare injury. I don't think we've ever heard of a quarterback having it. It's like Andrew Luck's lacerated kidney. I remember he had a kidney injury, 10 years ago.
Joe Burrow having a throat contusion.
Yeah.
Remember that?
My God, I really hope he's not turning into Andrew Luck. That would be suck.
Yes, let's not even put that voodoo in. I'm going to assume that our second one is also the same, Mick. And it is run defense. They didn't do enough. Interior defensive line. That was going to be that's to me the number 2 if I'm putting them in order. It is the run defense. Just in general, interior defensive line. If I want to be a pessimist, that's on the list.
Yeah, run defense is on the list. You lost your most important run defender in DJ Reader. He's by far one of the better interior run defenders in the league, graded pretty well. Last year was kind of a down year. He graded a 75. I think he's usually been in the 80s. But if you're looking at the interior defensive line, you don't really have a true nose tackle other than McKinley Jackson, who, even though we selected him in the 3rd round, he was always, he was tabbed as a late 5th, early 6th round pick in the 2024 draft. You don't really have another nose tackle on the roster. So you're going to be asking Sheldon Rankins, Chris Jenkins, one of these other, three tech-ish kind of, defensive tackles to fill that void that DJ Reader has left. So, yeah, I mean, that's a huge cause for concern for me.
Yeah, without question. And it is something that if that is not an issue, the Cincinnati Bengals are going to be really, really good this year. And I think you can agree with that, Mick. If that is not an issue, they have a chance. Let's be real. If that's not an issue, Cincinnati Bengals can win the Super Bowl. If it is an issue, I don't know that they can.
No, I mean, you have to be consistent in stopping the run. I mean, and that's going to be crucial against the division as well.
And that's why a couple of weeks ago, and that's why a couple of weeks ago I said that I think Chris Jenkins might be the most important player on the Cincinnati Bengals next year, not counting Joe Burrow. Like, in the obvious answers, Jamar Chase and so on. He is the most important player because how he plays, I think, will have a lot of an impact on that Bengals defense. Do you want to hit one of your reasons for pessimism and see if we overlap again?
Yeah. Frank Pollock is still the offensive line coach. So it's kind of a dual-edged sword here, if you want to call it that, and also a reason for optimism, because this should be the best line that Joe Burrow has ever had with the addition of Trent Brown. But on the other side here, Frank Pollock is still the offensive line coach. We have yet to see a good offensive line under Frank Pollock. It was supposed to happen last year with the signing of Orlando Brown, and then you had another year of continuity with Williams, Karras, Kappa, and Volson, and you saw another below average offensive line. I mean, they ranked 22nd in the league per PFF last year. If we go back to 2022, pretty sure they ranked 31st in the league in pass block grade. And then 2021, probably 32nd in the league. 29th, actually. So, yeah, I mean, we just consistently have not seen a good offensive line under Frank Pollock. I don't know how much of that has to do with Zach Taylor's scheme and how much of it has to do with Frank Pollock, but both of them are still here. And I'm not saying that Zach's really the problem here, because we've seen good offenses under Zach, but we've just have yet to see good pass blocking under Frank Pollock since he's came back.
I also went in offensive line, but went in a different direction as far as reasons for pessimism. And it's the depth, especially interior. They're an interior offensive lineman injury away from, like if Ted Karras gets hurt, God forbid, early on. Listen, we both love Matt Lee, but Matt Lee still was a 7th round pick.
And he's he is a center, I guess.
Yes.
Never mind.
And that's why I'm saying is throwing him into early on. Like, let's say Ted Karras gets hurt week 1. Okay, Matt Lee, let's throw you in week 2. Oh, who do you have? Oh, just Chris Jones. Good luck, bud. And that's kind of the concern there. Or, Cody Ford. He is your first man off the bench on the interior offensive line. Let's just say worst case scenario happens again, like it happened in the playoffs a couple of years ago, where you're literally pulling people left and right to start because literally the entire offensive line pretty much gets hurt.
Yeah.
What was it? Kappa, Williams, and Collins all got hurt.
Yep.
So you had 3 new starters on the offensive line in the biggest playoff game of the year. Those were both tackles, obviously. But it's just that, let's just say that. Who's your 4th tackle? Jackson Carman?
Is Deontay Smith still there, or is he gone?
He's technically still a thing. Jackson Carman? That's, to me, that is a reason to be pessimistic, and it might be more of, if the injuries happen, I don't love the depth, and that's something that they probably should have focused on more in the draft. And I know it's something we talked a lot about in the weeks following the draft, is that they didn't necessarily do enough there.
Yeah.
For me, next one, and I would assume that we both have something very similar to this. The AFC North is still the best division in football.
I do not have that, but no,
really?
that's a very good point.
It's what was it last year? All 4 teams finished above 500. Wasn't it like the first time since like the 40s that had happened, or something absurd?
It has not happened in the common era of football.
And let's be real, it very well could happen again this year, because you've got a lot of solid teams in that division. I mean, the worst team, you could argue, not the Bengals last year, because the Bengals were the worst team because they had an injury to number 9, and then also the run defense, but still, they had the injury to number 9, was probably the Steelers. You can make an argument the Steelers are better because they have an upgraded quarterback, potentially, if Russell Wilson decides to get his head out of his rear, and or Justin Fields is competent as a quarterback. The Ravens, I'm intrigued by the Ravens.
But yeah.
I'm intrigued, but they're still the same regardless. Like, I don't think you are much higher on Kenny Pickett than I ever was, which is not saying a lot considering that I am not high on Kenny Pickett.
People think that Kenny Pickett's like the worst quarterback that's ever played football. Like,
he's not okay. He's not
that bad.
But he's not
that bad. He didn't turn the ball over. No, he didn't throw touchdowns like everybody loves to see. He also had the worst offensive coordinator I feel like that's ever existed.
Ken Zampese?
Okay, second worst offensive coordinator that's ever existed. And still won like 60% of his games. Like,
I mean, he did in his career 13 touchdowns, 13 interceptions so far. So it's not like he's, I don't know. But still, I think, to me, the AFC North being the best division in football is a reason for pessimism for the Bengals, because it is a war, and the Bengals were awful in the division last year. In all seriousness, the Bengals did not win a divisional game last year. They won a glorified preseason game to not go winless. And that's a reason for pessimism. Yep. Drop in your next one.
Next one, lack of depth in the pass rush. So we've got one really, really, really good pass rusher, one elite pass rusher, and Trey Hendrickson. And we talked about lack of depth in the O-line if Ted Karras were to go down, or somebody else on the O-line. If Trey Hendrickson goes down, you really don't have any sources of pass rush. I mean,
you're putting a lot of reliance on Miles Murphy and Joseph Osai finally becoming what you hope they were.
Yeah, and I mean, is there a chance that both of those guys pan out and and play up to that level, or at least at a sustainable level where they're not being a liability to the defense? Yeah, but am I confident about that? Absolutely not. Probably the opposite of confident. So, yeah, I mean, you're really going to be relying on a second-year jump from Miles Murphy. Now, there were some things to be encouraged about. I mean, Miles Murphy had the third best pass rush win rate on the team after Joseph Osai and Trey Hendrickson. We didn't really see Joseph Osai in the field at all last year, by the way. I'm not sure why. Because when he was on there, I mean, he was probably better than, a Cam Sample or Sam Hubbard. I know Sam Hubbard fans still want to hear that, but Sam Hubbard, after his injury last year, was pretty much useless.
And that injury was significant.
It was.
What it sounds like.
No, before then, he was playing like a top-end edge rusher. So I guess the other thing is, Sam Hubbard could come back and return to form after that surgery. There's a good chance he does do that. But
we just... You know what I hate is that, fans keep saying, Sam Hubbard, he's getting old. Sam Hubbard is the same age as us. That just makes me feel.
Isn't he?
No, he's class of 2015. I'm almost
is
positive.
He really?
Yeah. Him and Burrow.
28.
Yeah, so he's...
No, he was born in 95.
Okay. Well, he's our age. I'm almost positive that he was the class of 2015, though. Maybe he was held back or something.
He was a class of 2014 in high school. So he's a year ahead of us.
Okay. But still, he's our age. In all seriousness, it's just, it makes me feel incredibly old. In fact, it's almost his birthday. Happy early birthday, Sam. I'm sure you're watching right now. But still, I think I do agree that is a concern. And the way that you fix that concern is that Miles Murphy plays like a first-round pick this year. And Could that happen? Yeah, it absolutely could.
It could, yeah. But can't be too confident in that happening. I guess that's the big thing, is how confident are we that he can pull that off. No, he definitely could. So
the next one for me that I think is important for us to discuss as far as a reason for pessimism is, and I'm not sure how big of a pessimist I want to be with this, but this is the first time Zach Taylor has had to replace a coordinator.
yeah, it's a good point.
What if it doesn't work? Dan Pitcher, everything looks like it's going to work. He pretty much was a coordinator last year, and he just got promoted into the offensive coordinator position. But that doesn't guarantee anything. What if it doesn't work? What if he is just a quarterback's coach? We have the discussion, a lot about some people are just meant to be an assistant. They just are. They're not meant to lead in that realm. Now, again, Dan Pitcher, all signs point to him being great. But what if it doesn't work?
Yeah.
And I don't know.
Yeah, I did not have that on my list, but I mean, yeah, the turnover at coordinator could be a cause for concern. I don't know. I really don't think it is. I think as long as you have the play caller in Zach Taylor, and you got your quarterback still in Joe Burrow, like there's probably going to be not much change in the offense.
There's probably not, but it is a little bit of, and we're getting to the reasons for optimism here in a second, Mark. We're starting off being the negative Nancys, and then we're going to drop in our positivity here in just a few moments. Oh no.
What?
My computer's frozen. Can you still hear me?
Yeah.
Interesting. Well, I hope this is not going to happen. But if it crashes out, I might have to switch to another computer.
Oh.
Well, that's not good. You might have to run things on this end. Am I frozen?
Yeah, you're completely frozen.
Well, you can still hear me though, right?
I can hear you.
Okay. Well, people don't really need to see my face anyways. I don't know if the comment's still on the screen, but if you could take it off in the case that it is not, then that's probably a good thing.
Hide. I hit it.
There you go. Good job. Good job. If I turn off here, Mick, then just fill time until I can switch in and get my other laptop. It's just sitting right here. What was your last reason for pessimism?
Okay. Quarterback number 2. So are you there? Are you still there?
I am.
Okay, cool. So yeah, quarterback number 2, Chido Awuzie left.
Okay. I thought you said quarterback.
No, corner. CB2,
okay, I was very confused. It was like Jake Brown
starting outside corner, outside of you're on the other side of Cam Taylor Britt. Where did Sam left? Sam's gone. Okay, I guess I'm killing time. So yeah, the Chido Awuzie hole needs to be filled essentially. And it sounds like we're going to have a little bit of a position battle on our hands, just based off of what we've heard, so far the past week, with Dax Hill taking reps with the ones at the outside corner position instead of DJ Turner. So I think either one kind of provides a reason for concern. We didn't see particularly great pass coverage from either Dax Hill or DJ Turner in 2023. Now, the silver lining with Dax is Dax was not playing an outside corner position last year. He was playing the free safety position. Is Sam back? I just heard noise. Do I need to let you on? Nope, you let yourself on, and now you have no audio. There you are.
There we go. I'm back now. It is okay. I don't like that we flipped sides now, so this is a little.
I don't like that either. Can we go back? Do I have to leave?
Let me see this. Let's see if I can do this here. There we go. Okay, that feels a little bit better. So yeah, I just switched to my other laptop. I've been worried. My Mac, I knew she's hanging in there. And I'm hoping that wasn't just the death of it.
Well, so I'm not a big computer guy, or I'm not a huge computer expert, but I'm just saying, you remember Rudy, right? My dog.
I do.
Still alive. He's 15 years old and he's still kicking. And my mom was ready to throw in the towel with him. My parents were ready to throw in the towel with him like a couple weeks ago. And then their vet introduced these things called Chinese herbs. And now he's just running around the house all over again. So maybe give your Mac some Chinese herbs. And
Do they sell
work.
those for computers?
I mean, probably find some. Ginseng. Isn't ginseng a Chinese herb?
I have no idea.
I don't know.
You were mentioning, though, I don't know how deep you got into the cornerback 2 discussion.
Yeah, it was kind of surface level so far, but with the cornerback 2 position opposite of Drake is a Steelers fan. Well,
Braden is a Steelers fan who you had the argument with about Kendrick a couple of weeks ago, if you remember.
I think Drake and Ben Roethlisberger have a lot in common.
Apparently
in terms of what they like. It's not good. Not a good thing either. Anyways, yeah. Oh wait, no. Ben okay. Anyways. What are we talking about? Outside corner position.
Cornerback 2. You are not a fan of cornerback 2 depth.
Yes. Not really the depth, but who's going to be starting opposite of Cam Taylor-Britt. I think where I left off on before you finally hopped back in here was, we saw pretty bad coverage grades from both DJ Turner and Dax Hill in 2023. Now, the thing with Dax Hill was that he was at the free safety position and wasn't playing an outside corner, so you could be seeing a little bit of an improvement there. So yeah, but the coverage wasn't pretty from either of those two players last year.
Well, did you see there was clips today of Dax Hill coming out and playing a little bit?
Yeah. Did he look good?
Well, it's funny, and I wish I would have pulled the clip. James Rapine on Twitter, he posted a good clip of Dax Hill was playing defense. I don't remember what receiver it was on. He made a play, and in the background, you see Joe Burrow. He takes his towel and throws it straight up into the air and calls flag for pass interference. It was just really funny because just in the very back, you see this play happens. It's bang bang from the angle that the video is. You can't really tell if it was pass interference or not. But then you just see Burrow. He just throws his flag up into the air, and I just found it kind of funny.
Okay, well, doesn't sound like he's off to a good start. Joe Burrow thinks he had a PI.
He did.
In the middle of practice, so I don't know. But yeah, I mean, that corner spot's going to be occupied by one of those two in 2024. So I mean, unless if we see huge improvements in their coverage skills, which maybe you see a year or two jump out of either of them. Yeah, I mean, there's not a lot of depth behind them either.
How about we stop being pessimists and let's jump into some optimism? Does that sound fine to you?
Yeah, let's do
it. Number one, I guarantee, is the same for both of us.
Yeah, probably.
Joe Burrow.
Joe Burrow's back.
He's back. And I feel like if you ask any Bengals fan, you want them to be optimistic, there you go. Because anytime number 9's in the game, the Bengals have a chance to win.
Yeah. So just some stats to kind of throw out there. Look at big time throw percentage. Joe Burrow has been usually towards the top of the league the past few years, at around a 5% mark. That's pretty decent for big time throw percentage. Browning was at a 3.5%. Turnover worthy play percentage. Burrow is, I think, pretty much tops the league in this, right around 2%. And Jake Browning had a turnover worthy play percentage of about 4%. So just a couple of stat nuggets there as to how much better Joe Burrow is of a quarterback than Jake Browning. And I'm not here to slight on Jake Browning. I'm just saying, that's a reason to be optimistic for the 2024 season, is that Joe Burrow's back. And then we also just saw, before he got hurt, I mean, he played very well, and we handily beat 2 Super Bowl contending teams in back-to-back weeks, in the Niners and the Bills. Now, I mean, there is a question as to if that was a time in the season where the Niners were skidding for a few weeks because they had to deal with the They lost to the Vikings the week before, and I think they lost to they had another embarrassing loss in there too. Maybe that was after the Bengals game. But yeah, I mean they beat a team that was, a couple plays away from winning the Super Bowl, and then they, another team that was a couple plays away from beating the Chiefs as well in the playoffs. So I mean that's definitely a reason to be optimistic.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. Number 9 is back. For me, my number 2 optimistic take, I'm assuming might be on your list, but it might not. You got a 4th place schedule.
It is on my list.
That's not nothing.
No.
Mark says Cleveland was pretty bad for the 49ers as well. That might have been
Cleveland. That was the Cleveland game. Yeah,
that was the game that you were thinking of. But I mean, listen, the 4th place schedule, you're getting to play the Panthers, you're getting to play the Patriots, and you're getting to play, what's the other 4th place team now that the Titans.
Yeah.
Those are your 3 teams that you're getting. Whereas the other teams, I mean, listen, you look at the Ravens in those divisions. Now, luckily for the Ravens, if there was a division that you'd want to be matched up with, the 1st place team, the NFC South, not a bad one. Not a bad one. They probably lucked in there. But I mean, the Ravens are getting the Texans and they're getting the Bills as well. I mean, 3 games right there that the Bengals theoretically should go 3-0 in. Whereas the Ravens, you could make an argument that they go 0-3, especially since that game is at Tampa.
Yep.
That's a losable game. I think that's prime time too, if my memory is right with it. So that's huge. You could get a three game swing there with a 4th place schedule.
I'm going to be honest with you. I'm not very bullish on the Bucs this year. I think I think there's a good chance we see them take a nosedive because of losing Dave Canales. But
I'm not either. I'm more just saying they won the division last year. I'm almost positive that's a primetime game.
Mm-hmm.
And home teams have a good record playing in primetime. So you never know. I mean, that's not a crazy thing to lose. But even then, let's just say Texans and Bills. Those are definitely games that the Ravens can lose.
Yeah. Now, the rest of the North is playing these teams, but if we're looking at the divisional matchups too, playing the AFC West this year, which I know the Chiefs are in that division, but the other 3 teams are very beatable, including the Broncos and the Raiders, which might be the 2 worst teams in the AFC this season. I think that's definitely a reason to be optimistic, because you get to play that division this year. And it's not like the Chiefs are world beaters, especially playing them in week 2. I think that's going to be a very competitive game. They're probably going to be without their star playmaker in Rashee Rice. Have you heard any news about
Nothing
on whether there's going to be a suspension soon or not? But
you would imagine that something will have to come of that. But I also don't really know the legal ramifications of that.
So they say a suspension is imminent.
Yes. And I would imagine 2 games probably sounds about right. Maybe 4.
It says some outlets are even speculating that a double-digit game suspension could happen.
That's not going to hurt my feelings either. Do you have another reason for optimism for the Bengals this year?
I've got a few. So more explosive playmakers.
Yep. That was my next one.
Okay. Yeah. So a lot of additions. Zach Moss replacing Joe Mixon. I think the one problem I had with Joe Mixon, especially last year, was his yards after contact numbers were pretty putrid. Worst in the league, or I think might have been 3rd worst in the league among running backs with a minimum of 50% of the maximum snaps. So
they were atrocious.
Yeah. Wasn't great in terms of the explosion numbers. You had Tyler Boyd, who looked like that he took a step back last year. He's getting replaced by Jermaine Burton.
You had T. Higgins, who was not great at points last year.
And he was hurt. He was hurt for a good chunk of the year last year.
You had Irv Smith.
Yeah.
Who? Yeah.
We don't even need to talk about that. That's just
he was a thing.
Yeah.
He was a thing. He technically did make a touchdown catch.
Yeah, I don't know why we talk too much about Irv Smith though. Like we should probably
it was Tanner Hudson.
We should be just comparing Gesicki to Hudson, and that might be like that might be a closer discussion or a closer argument to have. That is Gesicki going to be much better than Tanner Hudson? Probably a little bit, but not like, Tanner Hudson was a serviceable tight end last year.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, and that was kind of, I didn't necessarily say, I just think that they're better at a lot of offensive positions than they were last year.
Yeah.
Most of the playmakers. I mean, quarterback, you have Joe Burrow back. There you go.
Mm-hmm.
Wide receiver, Jermaine Burton for Tyler Boyd. You're hoping that's better. Gesicki, better than whatever tight end you want to throw into that realm is what you're hoping for. And then, you could maybe even say, is Trent Brown / Amarius Mims better than Jonah Williams?
Yes.
You would hope so in that realm. So I think the Bengals are better on offense.
Yeah. And that was another point I had. It was another bullet list on the list of reasons for optimism, but is an upgrade at right tackle. This should be the best offensive line that Joe Burrow's had. Hopefully, that is what we see from this offensive line. I think we did see an improvement last year over the previous couple from Frank Pollock, but it just was disappointing, I guess, compared to what the expectations were. We were expecting like a fringe top 10 offensive line last year, and we did not get that. So Trent Brown comes in. Hopefully you get Trent Brown for a good amount of, a good portion of games in 2024, but hopefully you just see an improvement from the offensive line, which you should see that. So,
yeah, I agree. I agree completely. Kind of fits into my realm there as far as my point. My next two are kind of combined two, I feel like, and I'm assuming that it is on your list as well. And it's the safeties.
yep.
You would hope are better. And then my second point with that is I think you now have a leader on that secondary and bringing back Von Bell. Von Bell, it was talked a lot about that he kind of ran a breakfast club of sorts for those receivers or for the secondary his years in Cincinnati. He was the guy that would be in there at like 5 a.m. Getting up early, getting workouts in before, meetings and such, bringing in some of those young guys. I think he's going to be a great addition back into the room, even if he doesn't play as much, because Jordan Battle takes a step forward. I think he's going to be really good, but I think just as a whole, the safety room is, and it's tough to be much worse, but
yeah,
it's better. Which
you did have really good safety play from one of your safeties for the last, 8 games or so season of Jordan Battle. So,
but the first half was bad.
Yes, I mean, you had Nick Scott and Dax Hill back there. That was not good. The communication was awful. I mean, the communication from Dax Hill was pretty bad throughout the entire season. But yeah, having Von Bell, having that veteran presence in the safety room, and there's a good chance. I mean, Riley's speculated on this quite a bit. There's a good chance we see some 3 safety sets. We see some different looks from Lou in regards to the secondary that we've never seen before, because you've got safeties. It's funny. You've got 3 totally different safeties. You've got Geno Stone, who is the ball hawk, who cannot defend the run whatsoever. Dude sucks at tackling and cannot play run defense, but is a very good ball hawk coverage safety. You've got Von Bell, he's actually not bad in coverage, but he's not great. But his run defense has been really good over the past few years. And then you got Jordan Battle, who's just like a mix between the two. I'm really interested to see what Lou does with these safeties for 2024.
Tyson Anderson. Like, I'm intrigued by what he might bring. I mean, he was one of the better special teams guys last year. Into if he can stay healthy, into what he might be able to bring to the defense as well. Will he be in those
anticipating a pick 6 in preseason from Tyson Anderson, and that is it.
Wow. I mean, he was on pace. Darren Simmons made the comment that he was on pace to probably make the Pro Bowl as a special teamers last year for the Bengals.
Well, that's special teams.
Yes. And listen, you don't know. Maybe we'll see something from Tyson Anderson. Maybe it's just been the health that has continuously kicked him in the rear. And then I'm also intrigued by Dejon Anthony, who is the draft pick out of Ole Miss. I'm just interested as to how he fits. because it's a
as
loaded safety room. But I think he might be a slot. I think he's Jalen Davis.
Yeah.
And that's kind of my prediction with that. But yeah, no, I agree completely with that. Do you have any other reasons for optimism since I kind of combined my last two there?
No, I think I got all of my, let's see, Burrow's back, more explosive playmakers, Trent Brown, safety room, schedule's easier. So yeah, we talked about all of them.
And I think as a whole, fans have a reason to be optimistic. Are there concerns? Absolutely. But there are concerns about any team in the NFL. There isn't a single one that doesn't have any concerns. I mean, heck, the Kansas City Chiefs have won the last 2 Super Bowls, and they've got concerns. You mentioned a couple of them. Where's our wide receiver? Is he going to play at all this year?
I'll tell you
don't
what,
know.
if Deshaun Watson only gets 10, only got a 10-game suspension. This should be a 1 or 2 game, hopefully 2 game. But
listen, you won't hear me disagreeing on that. But still, every team in the NFL has questions, and I think as a whole, the Bengals have to feel pretty good about the way that they're going to set in. But I think that biggest one that we talked about is the run defense.
Yeah.
It is, you never really know what it's going to happen, and I think it'll be the biggest cause for concern for the Bengals this coming season.
It's definitely the weakest, I think. I don't want to, it's not a position group, but it's the weakest aspect of the team, I think, right now is the run defense. And then I'd probably just put pass blocking next because just can't seem to ever get it done in that department. So, yeah. I don't know. There's a lot of reasons to be concerned. Burrow's back, or concerned. Be optimistic. Burrow's back.
And honestly, you could just stop right there.
Well, I was going to say that the wide receiver room has gotten more explosive than what it has probably the past 2 years, honestly, with Tyler Boyd getting replaced by Jermaine Burton.
And then you're hoping that you get second-year jumps from Yoshi and get a second-year jump from Charlie Jones as well, and hoping that those guys continue to trend. And the guy that we never talk about that's Mr. Consistent, never going to blow you away, but he's just always there, is Trenton Irwin. He is just Mr. Consistent. If he needs to fill in, he'll do his job. He'll make a couple of catches. He's not going to drop it. He's just consistent as all consistent gets. And when you have a room with some youth, that's the kind of guy that you need in there as well, with a guy like Trenton Irwin. I know next week, I think we're going to be off unless there is some breaking, unless T. Higgins gets traded or something T. Higgins related happens, we probably will not have a show next week. If it does happen, something wild, then Mick, somebody will probably fill in for you.
Yep. That would be, yeah. I will not have any access to internet for a whole week, pretty much. It's going to be very, very, like, so I'm going on a cruise. I can't wait. I'm really excited. But yeah.
Where are you going?
It's a week-long cruise. So we're going to Puerto Rico, the Dominican, Turks and Caicos, and then I think Carnival has a private island or something that they take all of their ships to. So, yeah.
Did you get the budget hotel in Puerto Rico?
I did not get a budget hotel. I've got a
cruise ship.
Don't get lost at a port. We'll see. We'll see.
Because you've never done the cruise before, have you?
I've done one. I've done one cruise.
Okay. Yeah, I've never done the cruise, and I'm intrigued by how that would go.
I don't know if you would be a candidate for a cruise. One, you've got a fear of heights, and I do. That where you're at on the Lido deck, you're pretty. It's not it's at the top of the cruise, pretty much.
For me, though, it's if I'm in the center, I'm okay. I just don't need to be
chilling in the pool the whole time.
You're saying that like that would be a bad thing.
No, it isn't. It is not a bad thing.
No, I mean,
do you get motion sickness?
See, like if I ride like the Scrambler at the fair,
that doesn't count. Everybody, but anybody our age gets that.
Yeah. Yeah, I know. Isn't that it's the sign of getting old. But I don't know. And see, that's the thing is I don't really know how I would do. And I feel like if I'd want to do a cruise, I'd want to do one that would be like, they do the 2 or 3 days
Yeah.
to
Yeah,
where
yeah.
I'd want to do like a test, and just see how it goes. And then I would be willing, like my parents, they're getting ready to do like a 2-week one.
Are
Like I
they
would
going to
not want to
Europe?
jump
Are they going to Europe?
Iceland. So yes, Iceland and Norway, I think.
I would imagine, I don't want to be pessimistic on your parents' trip because I think both of those destinations sound awesome and I hope they're great. I just know like my parents went to Alaska and I don't know if it's like with the northern waters, but like their Alaskan cruise was pretty choppy. Like the waters were, it was a little more of a rougher sail. So I don't know if it's gonna be like that with Iceland and Norway, but
they've done the Alaskan cruise, so I assume that they.
So they know what they know what they might be getting into with that.
And I know, and like my dad said, he's now says he's at the age where he doesn't really want to go to the warm.
Usually, when you get older, you want to go to the warm.
Yeah, but no, he'd rather go. I don't think he wants to go to like the North Pole or something. But I would assume that Iceland in June is not going to be. I mean, I don't even know. Well, here, I'll put you on the spot, Mick. Do you know what the capital of Iceland is?
Reykjavik.
Good job. Let's see what the temperature in Reykjavik was today. Okay. Well, what would be your guess?
55.
Yeah, really close. It's going to be 58 tomorrow with a low of 48. So it's mid-50s all week. So, I mean, Cincinnati in October is what you're going to be seeing for vacation, I guess.
That's pretty good weather.
Yeah.
I'm not against it.
No. But yeah, hopefully you will not have mid-50s in Turks and Caicos.
I don't think that is possible.
No, because I mean, I would assume that in Turks and Caicos today, it was probably, I don't even know. Let's see. 90. It was 85 all week. Literally, the high all week is 85.
Okay.
You poor soul.
It's going to be hotter here tomorrow, I think.
Oh, yeah. It's going to be like in the 90s this weekend here in good old Western Kentucky. But I think as a whole, I think we've got next week. If something happens, I'll have a show. Maybe we'll have Alex, we'll have Tommy, or maybe I'll just go on solo if something wild happens. But if not, we're going to take next week off, and we'll be back in 2 weeks. And I mean, heck, that's the thing. That in 2 weeks, training camp will just be a couple of weeks away. So we're coming in. Yeah, he is going to be tan. We're no longer going to have to wear the shades around him.
We're not gonna. Yeah, you're not going to need. You're not going to be seeing a ghost on the podcast anymore.
Have you been working on the beach bod then too?
I've been trying, but I haven't been like that successful.
Is Rory going?
No, Rory is not going on the cruise.
Oh, such a shame. Rory should be allowed to go.
I agree. I think she'd have a good time.
Oh, I guarantee it. People everywhere. It sounds like right up her alley. But in a couple of weeks, we'll be back. So that'll be 2 weeks. Remember to follow us on our social media channels, Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, podcasting platform. We're on there as well. You got any final thoughts, Mick?
No. Have a good week. I might not ever see you again. I might not ever put on this headset again.
There's a deep drive to left field.
I apologize to my bosses at Fox Sports, to the Reds.
What did you say about Kansas City?
Wait, what?
Well, I guess it was in Kansas City is when it happened. Speaking of in Kansas City, you know what today is the 1 year anniversary of? Ricky Karcher.
Oh, no, I did not know that. That is
Ricky Karcher 1 year ago today. And then, we got to talk about this. I'm going to go full screen on us, Mick, here because I'm going to have to change the background and we don't want people to see the background, but we got to at least talk about this. I'm going to talk about it again as well in a minute, but can we talk about this guy here?
Yes.
From the Reds game last night. And,
dude,
I got
sick.
A story in 3 pictures. A story in 3 pictures. And then did you see today that he was He was in his court hearing.
In the same attire.
Correct. And if you don't know what we're talking about, give it a Google. Hilarious.
Guy did a backflip. It was actually really good. Stuck the landing.
And I love John.
tased.
I was watching the game, and obviously they don't ever show it, but John Sadak, the Reds, TV guy, he goes, and now there's some idiot on the field. And he's doing a backflip. And he just got tased.
Why don't they? You're the media guy. Why don't they ever show that?
Because they don't want to encourage people.
Oh, that's stupid. That's the worst reason.
Because people would then do it to get on TV, would be the reasoning as for it. But now in the social media days, they're going to be everywhere anyways. Mark, this would be a fantastic giveaway. A Reds taser, fantastic giveaway idea. They'd be lined up like the Ellie De La Cruz bobblehead today, which apparently there were people lined up 2 hours before the game, and they still didn't get an Ellie De La Cruz bobblehead.
Can we petition to have that guy be the ruler of the jungle week 1?
Who is going to be ruler of the jungle week 1?
Oh, Corey. Unless if he gets Ring of Honor, which if he doesn't get it, then he would just turn down the Ring of Honor invite.
Exactly, he would.
The ruler of the jungle invite anyways.
We know the Commanders game is going to be whoever the two that get inducted.
Is Lamar Parrish still alive?
Yes.
Okay.
Lamar Parrish is still alive.
So I'm trying to find. Did they try to do? They don't really try to do somebody with a connection to both teams, right? Or
maybe it'll be Chad. I think Chad's done it before, but Chad's always a good go-to. He has the Patriots connection. If you want to do that,
he does have the Patriots connection.
So I don't know. That'll be a discussion. Maybe we're gonna do a 53-man roster prediction coming up, and maybe that'll be like our tiebreaker: is who will be the ruler of the jungle week 1. Or something if we tie based on points, or we'll figure out something to see who can, even though if we both get it wrong, I don't know how that'll work, but we'll figure something out. We've got enough off topic, I think enough today. We'll see you back in a couple of weeks, unless we're back next week. That means something probably wild has happened. Have a good trip, Mick, and we'll see you when you get back.
See you guys never. Goodbye.
Hooday.
Hooday for life.